In this video, we're going to discuss the setup and application of the RAV STDA96 automotive wheel clamp for the alignment system. The wheel clamp is constructed of a cast body, 3 protruding spokes here, and 2 grabber arms. There's also 2 spring-loaded paddles that you use to depress and apply the grabber arms. You notice that there are 2 sets of rim pegs on each of the 3 spokes. You'll also notice that the rim pegs are slightly offset. The inside 3 rim pegs are slightly closer to the wheel than the outside 3 rim pegs are. That's to give you a little versatility in mounting and also clear any possible obstruction in applying the clamp. You have 3 adapters that come with the clamp. The first adapters we'll show are the lipless adapters. These adapters are a plastic ABS material. They have a little claw extending out the edge of it, and the purpose of that claw is to reference and place the clamp on the outside edge of a wheel that does not have a lip on it for a wheel weight. So if you have an alloy wheel, and that's about the only place you'll find is on the aftermarket or some OEM alloy wheels that do not have a ridge or a lip on the outside edge of the wheel for a wheel weight to go, then you'll have to use these lipless adapters. And like all the other 2 adapters, you will make sure that you want to place each adapter on the same rim peg. If you're going to be adjusting the clamp in such a way that you're going to be putting the rim peg on the outer peg, then make sure the other 2 adapters are also on the outer peg. If you're using the inner peg, then all 3 adapters have to be on the inner peg. Since they are slightly offset, like we discussed before, if you were to make the error of putting 2 on the outside, 1 on the inside, then you're going to induce an error into your alignment. So pay particular attention to make sure you get your adapters placed on the same peg. The other adapter we have is a standard conical adapter, and that adapter is one that you'll use most often on a steel wheel or an alloy wheel that has a lip in which to put a wheel weight. You apply them the same way. They simply slide over the pegs. There's a little O-ring there to keep them attached so they don't fall off. They simply slide over. And again, those are for your lipped applications, and you can identify those by just the regular conical tip on the end, and they're placed right into the groove where your wheel weight would go. The other device that we have is a protruding hub adapter. It's just a long extension of the existing peg that's already on the clamp. So you slide it on like so, and then apply whichever adapter, lipless or conical, that you need to work with whatever kind of wheel you have. Again, you need to make sure that they're all 3 on the same peg, either inside or outside. So those are our 3 types of adapters. I'm going to go ahead and set these to the side. You also have on your grabber arms, you have 2 different lengths of grabber arms that are supplied with the aligner. You have the standard length, which will fit 95% of what you work on, and then you have the extended length, which will go way on out there for your 4-wheel drive vehicles that perhaps they'll have a 15 to 17 inch rim, but they may have a 42-inch tire on it. So that's what the longer grabber arms are for. But usually you'll just use the standard length grabber arm. Now, one thing I'd like to show you, as was discussed in the video on assembling your clamps, you'll notice that there is quite a bit of overlap in the little drilled divots that are in the bar that attaches it to the clamp. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 holes that actually overlap on each clamp. So if you were to run into a situation where you run across a car that had like a 12-inch rim or a 13-inch rim with a really low profile tire, and you couldn't get your grabber arm to slide in far enough to get to these outside 3 or 4 holes, then you could simply just trim off the last couple of divots here, the last couple of links on the grabber arm, and you can get that thing slid in far enough so that you can get close enough to the tire to grab onto it. You wouldn't lose anything because remember, you got 5 holes that overlap here, so no big deal. But I'm going to go ahead and slide this back in and show you how to adjust to get it ready to set up on a car. Now you'll notice that I've got 4 scales on the outside of the clamp here. There's a red scale marked outer peg, which references the outer peg of each one of the arms. And you have a black scale here that represents the inner peg, and it's written right there on the scale. That represents the wheel diameter for the inner peg. Now you'll notice that there's only 2 sets of scales, and they each are on the bottom spoke of the wheel clamp. That's because once I get my rim diameter, and this is an approximate rim diameter, it's not the exact, so don't sweat trying to really zero in on that scale. You just have to get it pretty close to the 20 if I'm doing a 20, and I'll slide this one down and get it pretty close to the 20 if I'm doing 20 here. Don't get excited about that. But at the top I don't have. That's because once I get my bottom 2 pegs in the proper position, I'll put the clamp on, resting the bottom 2 pegs into the rim area, and then I'll maneuver the top of the clamp in and then just slide the top one up or down until my adapter is in the correct position. It's very easy to do, and we'll demonstrate that. But if I was going to use, say for example, this is a 165/70 R14, it's a 14-inch tire. I'm going to go ahead and use the inner peg on this, because my inner peg will go from 13 inches to 20 inches approximately. My outer peg will go from 17 inches to 24 inches approximately. One thing to keep in mind on a 24-inch rim, the 24-inch rim that they're referring to is on your standard conical adapter. You can have a 24-inch bead-to-bead alloy wheel that if I have to outside clamp it using a lipless adapter on the outside edge of the bead, well, that outside edge, bead to bead or top of lip to top of lip, could be more than 24 inches. So you may run across a few aftermarket wheels that are 24 inches bead to bead, but the large lip, tall lip on the outside actually stretches beyond 24. So this won't quite reach it, and there are workarounds for that. So if you run into that situation, give us a call. I bet you we can get you worked around that. But if I have this 14-inch wheel here, I'm going to use my inner pegs. So I'm just going to slide the bottom to 14, slide this bottom one to 14. And on this one, I'm going to use my regular conical cones. So again, I'm using my inner pegs. So the inner peg here, the inner peg there, and finally the inner peg here. Okay, so I got my bottom 2 spokes adjusted for the wheel size. I got my adapters on the appropriate peg. Now I just need to rest the bottom 2 spokes on the lip area where the wheel weight goes, and then bring this up and adjust this one down until I'm on the same area, right here where the wheel weight goes on the lip. So I'll adjust that up, tighten it down, and you don't have to go cranking tight on this, just snug it up a little bit. Now the next thing I'll need to do is look and see where my grab arms need to go in order to grab hold of the wheel. And I normally advise people to leave yourself about an inch or so, a couple finger widths distance. And I'm going to put this at kind of a cant here so you can see it on the camera a little better. But I've got about 2 finger widths here that I've got this adjusted to. Adjust this one out to about the same. Got about 2 finger widths here so that when I do grab it, I can get a nice large arch in there and grab hold of the tire. If you adjust this too tight, believe me, it will grab the tire fine. The trouble comes in when you try to get this thing off, because these are serrated. They grab, you have a slick tire, and it will grab onto it where you can pick the whole tire assembly up with just a clamp. Getting it off can be tough. I'll show you how to get around that too, but I'm going to adjust this one. If I have it where I've got about 1 inch there, I got 3 holes showing. You want to make sure you have the same number of holes on each side, and you also want to make sure that when you're grabbing it and when you're putting it in place there, that you have it lined up so that this little window right here, you have the hole, the little divot in the bar there showing in that window. If you don't have it in the window and you tighten it down, I'll just show you here, I don't have it in the window, I'm going to just kind of snug my screw down, and when you go to apply it, it can slip. And if it slips, it may come off. So we always want to make sure that you have the 3 holes showing. You got the little hole showing in the window there, and I'm going to tighten it down. If you have the hole showing in the window, then your screw is screwing down into the divot on the bottom side, and it's locking it in real good. So I got 3 and 3. I'm going to put it out of cant again so you can see. I got my top adjusted. I got my 2 grab arms adjusted. Now all I have to do is get my palms on these plastic paddles here and just push it in. That's it. That's all there is to it. To remove it, you simply push in on the grab arms to release it. If you have it adjusted so tight in your area that it's almost impossible to get it off the way you normally get it off. You can't get it off. If you get it too tight, what happens is when you go to push the pedals in, you don't have enough release, enough arch release to get the serrated edges of these pads away from the tire. So you've got it hung on there. Okay? One thing you can do to get it off, and let me put it back on there and show you a little easier way to do it. And that's most common on a larger tire, SUV tire, something you can really get a good bite on. Smaller tires, not so big deal. But what you can do is you can put one shoulder into it right here on the paddle, push in, grab it with your thumb, just thumb it right around the pad, pull it loose, come right off. Not a problem. That's it. That's as hard as it gets.